about to hear a Sherlock Holmes mystery, adapted by Edith Meiser from the famous Sir Arthur Conan Doyle novel entitled The Hound of the Baskervilles. But before we dive into this thrilling conclusion, all of us here at CHS Studios would like to give you our sincerest thanks for joining us on this journey. Well, here we are, Dr. Watson. I can hardly wait for the final installment.
Come in, Mr. Bell, come in. Here, take this chair by the fire. Listen to that wind. Just the night to solve our gruesome mystery. And I promise you, this last episode is the most blood-curdling session we've ever had.
Oh, I hope I live through it.
Of course you will. Well, where did we stop last time? Let me see. I had gone down to Baskerville Hall, which is surrounded by the desolate moors of Devon, to protect Sir Henry, the new heir to the title, from the curse of the Baskervilles. The curse, which said that a gigantic hound of hell had roamed the moors since the time of the wicked Sir Hugo Baskerville. One afternoon, returning to Baskerville Hall across the moors from Coombe Tracy, I came across the evidence that proved some man, other than Selden, the escaped convict, was living in one of the prehistoric stone huts on the moors. Night was closing in, but I resolved to wait for this man's return. To my great surprise, it turned out to be
Mr. Sherlock Holmes!
Holmes? Why, as I live, Sherlock Holmes!
Quite. Watson, your revolver. Please be a little more circumspect with it. Nothing makes me more nervous than a revolver in the hand of an impulsive person.
I'm sorry. I'd quite forgotten about it.
So I noticed. Surprised to see me, eh?
Never more surprised in my life. Or delighted, either.
Yes, I was a trifle astonished myself. I had no idea you had found my little retreat until I was within 20 paces of the door.
You saw my footprints, of course?
No, Watson. I fear I couldn't honestly claim to recognise your footprints among all the footprints of the world. Unflattering, as that may sound.
Well then, what did give me away?
Your tobacconist.
My what?
Your tobacconist, Bradley of Oxford Street. You've patronised him as long as I've known you. And so, naturally, when I found his name on a cigarette stub down the path, I gathered my friend Dr. Watson was paying me a little visit.
And I thought I'd track down the master criminal himself.
Sorry to disappoint you, Watson, but come inside. The night is growing darker. I can't let you go back across the moors until the moon rises. Besides, this is as good a time as any to compare notes.
Look here, how long have you been living out here on the moors? And why didn't you let me know?
I've been here since you arrived. I remained hidden because I wanted my adversaries to feel free to go ahead with their plans. I also wanted to be on the spot in case matters came to a head before I expected. And I didn't tell you because you are a soft-hearted chap and a bad actor.
Now look here, Holmes.
I knew you'd be worrying about me out here on the moors, and that you would consequently try to smuggle me food and clothing, and that someone might follow you and discover my presence. So, you called on Mrs. Laura Lyons this afternoon, Watson?
Oh, so you've been spying on me too?
Of course. To return to Mrs. Lyons, it was she who wrote the letter making an appointment with Sir Charles the night of his death?
Yes. She says she wanted to ask him to advance her the money for a divorce.
Divorce, eh? Go on.
But she says she didn't go to meet Sir Charles after all.
No. What prevented her?
She received the money from another source, so the visit wasn't necessary.
Another source, eh? I thought so, Watson, I thought so. Are you aware that a close intimacy exists between this lady and that naturalist fellow?
You mean Stapleton? Why, no, I had no idea.
There has been correspondence between them, secret meetings in the middle of the night. Yes, I hope this knowledge will mean a formidable weapon in our hands. We may detach the one person whose blind devotion has been shielding Stapleton.
Who is that?
His wife.
Wife?
Yes. The lady he passes off as his sister is, in reality, his wife.
Good heavens, Holmes! But, of course, that's why he doesn't want Sir Henry to make love to her.
Exactly.
But are you sure? How did you find out?
The man is eccentric looking and an entomologist. Not a mere amateur, but an expert. It wasn't difficult to find someone who could identify him.
Then you suspect that he's at the bottom of all this? He was the man who dogged Sir Henry in London?
Quite.
And the warning, it must have come from her.
Exactly. Up to now, that is the most she has dared. I doubt if she knows how complete a villain Stapleton is, but she must suspect.
Yes. But what is the meaning of all this? What is Stapleton after?
It's murder, Watson. Refined, cold-blooded, deliberate murder. Slowly I'm closing in on him, just as he is closing in on Sir Henry. There is only one danger.
Yes?
He may strike before we are ready to do so. Another day, 2 at the most, and our case will be complete. Until then, we must guard Sir Henry as closely as...
Oh! Oh! Help!
What's that?
Oh!
Someone on the moors.
Help! He's after me! Help! Help!
It's coming from over there. Someone's running towards us.
The Hound! The Hound of the Baskervilles!
It's after him. Come, Watson, come. We must save him. Good heavens if we are too late. Watson! Watson, do you hear anything?
Not a sound. This confounded moor.
He's beaten us, Watson. Beaten us. We should never have left him alone.
You mean to think that that was Sir Henry screaming?
Who else? You know the sound a hound makes when he's hot on a scent. There's only one scent that hound has been trained to follow. Sir Henry's. Oh, that's why his boot was stolen in the London hotel, to give the dog that scent. If only we could find the poor fellow's body.
The moon should rise any minute now, and then we'll be able to see.
I'll never forgive myself, Watson. This is the end of my career. I'll never take another case.
Brace up. We can't be sure it was Sir Henry until we find him.
Here comes the moon, Watson. Ugh, how desolate everything looks. Half silver, half gloom.
Holmes? What's that? Down there at the foot of that cliff. It's a body. Sprawled out.
A body, dressed in Sir Henry's ready tweed suit, and his cap. He was running from the dog. He fell and broke his neck.
Maybe he's not dead, Holmes.
No, if he were alive, the dog would still be at him. It's only a dead body that a hound would lead if unmolested.
That brute Stapleton! The unspeakable brute!
We should have heard his screams and yet be unable to save him.
But how could you know he'd risk his life alone on the moor after all your warnings?
Quiet, Watson. Someone's coming. Oh, by all that audacious... It's Stapleton, come to view his handiwork.
Good. We'll get him now.
No, Watson. We haven't completed our case yet. We still have to prove the connection between the man and the beast. But not a word of our suspicions now, Watson. Not a word, or my plans crumble to the ground.
Ah, Dr. Watson. That's you, isn't it? Dear me. You're the last person I should expect to see on the moors at this time of night.
Well, yes. Strange you are abroad yourself.
Well, you see, I was standing in front of my house. I thought I heard a voice crying out.
Yes, we heard it too.
Yes, I thought I'd come and investigate. You see, I was uneased about Sir Henry.
Why about Sir Henry in particular?
Well, my sister seemed to be down in the dumps this evening, so I sent a note around to the hall suggesting that Sir Henry come and cheer her up.
How unfortunate. Sir Henry seems to have broken his neck on the way over.
Broken his neck?
He fell over this cliff. Look down there.
Good heavens! You're sure he's dead?
Quite.
Did you hear anything else besides his cries?
No. Did you?
No. Dear me. What a tragedy. 2 of the house of the Baskervilles killed within a month. Yes, there must be a curse on this place.
Undoubtedly. Come along. We can't let this poor fellow lie there all night.
No, of course not.
Dear, dear. What a tragedy. Well, I'll be going back to the house.
You're not leaving us.
But surely there's nothing I can do now.
You can help us carry him to the hall.
Of course. That is, naturally. Only too glad.
You're not afraid to touch a corpse?
No. Oh no, certainly not.
Good. Watson, help me turn him over on his back.
Oh, the poor fellow. The poor... Holmes? Holmes, what's the matter?
He has a beard. A red beard.
But that's impossible! Sir Henry is clean-shaven.
Then... Why then it isn't Sir Henry!
No, thank heaven.
Of course! I recognise him now. It's the escaped convict, Barrymore's brother-in-law.
Dressed in Sir Henry's old clothes.
Sir Henry gave them to his butler, I remember now.
And the butler passed them on to this poor fellow.
Well, this certainly is a surprise.
A pleasant surprise, Mr. Stapleton? A very pleasant surprise.
But what is your theory on the poor fellow's death?
Well, anxiety and exposure must have driven him out of his mind. He neglected to look where he was going, fell and broke his neck.
Yes, that seems logical. What do you think about it, Mr. Sherlock Holmes?
You're very quick at identification, Mr. Stapleton.
We've been more or less expecting you since Dr. Watson's arrival. Yes, and you're just in time to see a tragedy.
An unpleasant remembrance to take back to London with me tomorrow.
You're not leaving us so soon.
Yes, I've been able to discover absolutely nothing. A man needs facts, not legends or rumours to go on. It's a most unsatisfactory case.
Sorry to hear it. Well, I'll be going on home. Shall I send a word to the authorities that you've located the escaped convict? We wouldn't want you to go away without some little honour, eh?
Thank you. That's very good of you, I'm sure.
Holmes, do you think the Hound was trailing this poor chap?
No, not the man himself. His clothes, or rather, the scent of his clothes.
The man must have been in a paroxysm of terror to risk recapture by screaming for help.
At last, we've come to grips, Watson. What a nerve Stapleton has, and what a brain. The perfect criminal. We have to work fast, very fast, if we are to prevent another catastrophe.
Well, Mr. Holmes, I must say I'm both pleased and surprised to see you. I've been anticipating a rather dull time when I received an invitation to drop around and see the Stapletons, but I declined in spite of the fact that I might have a more lively evening.
Yes, I've no doubt it would have proven a very lively evening indeed. But hadn't you better break the news to Mrs. Barrymore that her brother is dead?
I suppose so. Unpleasant duty. I'll be back directly. Don't hesitate to refill your glasses while I'm gone.
Thank you.
But look here, Holmes. You didn't tell Sir Henry our suspicions of Stapleton and his wife?
And why should I? The man has enough of an ordeal before him without being upset by that. In fact, I think the less he...
Holmes, what's the matter? What are you staring at?
That portrait, the one over the fireplace. The cavalier with the thin face and keen eyes. There's something about those eyes.
Yes, that man is the cause of all this mischief. He's the one who brought the curse of the Hound down upon the family.
You mean that is Sir Hugo himself?
His name and the date 1647 are scrawled on the back of the canvas.
Surprising. I had pictured a more robust figure. But this straight, severe face, thin-lipped, almost prim, it's the eyes that give him away. The power for evil lurking in those eyes. Whom does it suggest to you, Watson?
Why, it's a bit like Sir Henry about the jaw.
No, that's not it. Cover up the broad hat and the ringlets. Look at the face, Watson. Just the face.
By Jove! It's Stapleton! Stapleton to the life! It might be his portrait.
Yes, an interesting instance of a throwback, both physical and spiritual. Stapleton is practically a reincarnation of his vicious and unscrupulous ancestor.
You mean Stapleton is a Baskerville?
Not a doubt of it. That picture supplies our one missing link.
What do you mean?
It gives us the motives for these crimes. Stapleton has designs on the succession. He intends to become Lord of Baskerville Hall at any cost.
The villain! The black-hearted!
Hush, Watson. Here comes Sir Henry back again. Well, Sir Henry, how did they take the news?
Barrymore was rather relieved, I fancy. But poor Mrs. Barrymore wept bitterly.
Evil indeed is the man who hasn't one woman to mourn for him. But it's time we were going to bed. Watson and I must leave for London early tomorrow morning.
But surely you're not deserting me like this.
I'm afraid it's necessary, Sir Henry. You will be quite safe, however, if you do exactly as I say during our absence.
Very well, if you say so. I'm waiting for orders.
Good. You are engaged to dine with your friends, the Stapletons, tomorrow night.
Yes, Dr. Watson promised to go too.
You must explain that Dr. Watson and I have been unexpectedly called to London. We will be gone 2 days at most. Be sure to mention that.
If you insist.
There is no alternative, I assure. One more direction. You are to drive, not walk, over to the Stapletons. Send your trap back, however, and be sure to let them know you intend to walk home.
Across the moor.
Across the moor. I promise you'll be quite safe. But I caution you, as you value your life, don't cross the moor in any direction, save along the straight path which leads from the Stapletons to the Grimpen Road, and so to Baskerville Hall. And furthermore, and this is the most vital of all, you must quit the Stapletons' house at exactly 10 o'clock, not a quarter of an hour before or after.
Very good. I don't understand what this is all about, but I'll do as you say.
Yours not to reason why, yours but to do and die.
Watson? Watson. I trust to heaven that quotation isn't prophetic.
I must say, Holmes, I don't see why you have to rush us off to London this morning.
Calm yourself, Watson. I don't expect to go any farther afield than the post office here in Coombe Tracy. Yes, this is it, if I'm not mistaken. Watson, run in like a good fellow and see if a message has come for me.
No, all right.
The weather is clear enough. If only we don't have a storm tonight. Everything depends on a clear night. You never know.
Here it is, Holmes. A telegram from London. Just came through.
Give it to me, Watson. It should be from Inspector Lestrade of Scotland Yard. Yes, he says, wire received, coming down with warrant. Meet you as arranged. Excellent. Now, suppose we drop in and have a chat with your friend, Mrs. Lyons. That is her cottage at the end of the street, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, but you needn't call her my friend.
Oh. I thought you had a weakness for attractive women, Watson.
She's attractive enough, I admit, but hard as nails, if you know what I mean. Well, here we are. I gather from the sound of the typewriter that the lady is at home.
Ah, here comes the charmer.
What do you want?
I'm investigating the death of the late Sir Charles Baskerville.
What has that have to do with me?
That's what we've come to find out, Mrs. Lyons. Dr. Watson has reported that you confessed to making an appointment with Sir Charles at 10 o'clock at the Moorgate, the place and hour of his death.
Yes, but I'm
going to be frank with you, Mrs. Lyons. This is a case of murder, and the evidence may implicate not only your friend, Mr. Stapleton, but his wife as well.
His wife? His wife? But Mr. Stapleton is not a married man.
I'm sorry to disillusion you, but the young woman who passes for his sister is, in reality, his wife.
No, it can't be true. You can't prove it.
On the contrary, I have come prepared to do so. Here is the picture of the couple, taken 4 years ago when he was head of St. Oliver's private school, and answered to another name. It's endorsed Mr. and Mrs. Vanderleer in his handwriting. You, should be able to recognise it.
The blackguard! The cheat! And I thought he wanted to marry me. I've been nothing but a tool in his hands.
Then he was the man who persuaded you not to keep your appointment with Sir Charles, an appointment he himself had suggested?
Yes. Why should I shield him? I've had my suspicions all along, Mr. Holmes, but I'd have played square with him if he'd kept faith with me.
Quite. On the whole, Mrs. Lyons, you have had a very fortunate escape. You've had him in your power, and yet you are alive. You've been walking for days on the edge of a very dangerous precipice. Thank heaven the night is clear, Watson. Full moon to favour us. The visibility should be excellent. Confound it, where is Lestrade? I told him to meet us beside this tor at 9 o'clock, and here it's nearly 10.
Well, here I am. I couldn't get here any sooner. Train was late.
Lestrade, do you have to come pussyfooting around like that? My nerves haven't been improved by this business.
Sorry, Holmes said I wasn't to let myself be seen.
Come on, you two. No time for conversation. We've got to get to the Stapleton place before 10.
Right.
What's it all about, Holmes?
No time to explain now. Have you got your revolver with you, Lestrade?
As long as I have my trousers, I have my hip pocket. As long as I have my hip pocket, I've got a revolver in it.
Good. That's the house up ahead.
Only one room lit up.
Yes, there they are, sitting before the fire. Sir Henry and that devil Stapleton. But where's the lady? I don't see her anywhere.
By Jove, this isn't a very cheerful place, Holmes. What's that marsh down there, with a thick fog hanging over it?
That's the deadly Grimpen Mire, a network of quicksand.
That fog looks ghostly in the moonlight.
Hello, Stapleton has gotten up. He's going to the door. Quick, behind these rocks.
He's opened the door. Now he's walking over to that shed.
Aha, so that's it. I thought so.
Holmes? I say, Holmes, that fog is moving.
There, he goes back into the house.
10 o'clock. Time for Sir Henry to start home down this path.
That fog is creeping up the hill, towards the house.
Confound it! I told him to leave at 10. In another quarter of an hour, the path will be blanketed with fog.
Yes, it's already reached the house. It's curling in thin wisps across that window. It's being blotted out.
Curse the luck! Curse it!
Fog. It's like a malignant white octopus. It's reaching out for us.
We have to move back to higher ground. Come on.
Yes, but isn't it a risk?
Yes, a damnable risk. In heaven's name, why doesn't he come? What's he waiting for?
We're out of the fog on this hill, but it's still coming towards us. How queer it looks in the moonlight.
Quiet. What's that? Yes, footsteps. Thank God. Sir Henry's coming. Quick, get to one side. He mustn't know we're here.
Here he comes. At the curtain of fog. He's walking fast.
He's looking back over his shoulder.
Something is following him. Can't you hear it sniffing along the ground?
You don't mean the Hound?
You've let something go past us.
Yes, it's got the scent. It's broken into a trot. Get your revolvers out.
I can see a huge black shape. It's coming, yes.
Ah! Holmes! It's a fiend! A fiend!
Good Lord! Its eyes are blazing flames. Hellfire drips from its jaws. Oh, no.
It's a fiend from hell, I tell you.
After it! Oh, we've let it get by. It'll overtake Sir Henry.
Help! Help!
He's seen it. Run, Watson, run!
We'll never catch it.
He's got him down! He's on his throat!
Look out! I'm going to shoot!
You got him, Holmes. By heaven, you got him. He was mortal after all.
Quick! Sir Henry may be hurt.
Ugh, what a tremendous animal.
Here, help me lift him off, Sir Henry. There. Any wound, Watson?
No, we were just in time. The poor fellow's fainted from shock.
But look here, Holmes. The dog's eyes and jaws. They're still dripping fire.
It's phosphorus, my dear Lestrade. Phosphorus which had been painted on. Yes, a trick I wasn't expecting. I'll admit, the sight upset my calculations for a moment.
The dog.
Sir Henry's coming round. You stay here with him, Watson. Lestrade, come with me. We've dealt with the Hound, but there's still his master to be reckoned with.
The door's open, Holmes.
He may be hiding in the house, but I doubt it. The lamp's lit.
Holmes, what's that?
Someone's in this closet. The door's locked. Help me break it in, Lestrade.
Why, it's a woman bound and gagged.
Mrs. Stapleton, here, help me cut the ropes.
Where is he? What's happened? Is he alive?
You mean your husband?
No. Sir Henry. Oh, you must warn him. In heaven's name.
Sir Henry is quite safe. The Hound is dead.
Oh, thank heaven. I tried to warn him. I found out today for the first time. Oh, I admit I suspected for some time, but I was afraid. My husband was a brute. He beat me. Here, you can still see the welts.
The filthy brute.
But that is nothing. Nothing. It was my mind and soul he tortured. He was half crazy, I think. I never dared defy him. Until today.
Yes. And today?
Today I realized Sir Henry was in some horrible danger. I suspected what it was, but I had to know. I followed my husband. I followed him to Grimpen Mire. I saw him make his way across it, guiding himself by the sticks he'd stuck into the morass. And when he came back, he was leading a dog, a gigantic black hound. Suddenly I knew it was that dog that had killed Sir Charles. I had to warn Sir Henry. I was slipping out of the house when my husband discovered me. He was like a man possessed. I think he'd have killed me then and there, but he was expecting Sir Henry at any moment. So he gagged me and threw me in here instead.
Never fear, madam. You shall be revenged on him if we have to scour the moor to find him.
I know where he is, but no one could follow him there.
And where is that?
That island in the middle of the Grimpen Mire? Oh, I know you'll say he wouldn't attempt it in this fog, but you don't know my husband. It's his last chance. No one could follow him there.
Mrs. Stapleton, your husband may find his way into the Grimpen Mire, but he'll never find his way out again.
What do you mean?
I too saw him go through the mire this afternoon. So, after he returned home, I removed the sticks which served as his signposts. Yes, I think we may safely say the moor has taken its own revenge.
And that was how Holmes lifted the curse from the House of Baskerville.
And was Stapleton sucked in by the Grimpen Mire?
Undoubtedly, Mr. Bell. We found his hat and muffler there the next morning.
And who was Stapleton? Was he really a Baskerville?
Yes, Sir Charles' youngest brother, the black sheep of the family, had contracted a highly unsavoury marriage before he died in Central America. Stapleton was the child of this union.
And Mrs. Stapleton, what became of her?
Well, Sir Henry took a trip around the world, accompanied by Dr. Mortimer, to regain his equilibrium, but he discovered that he couldn't forget the lady. So he finally decided the only way he could get her out of his mind was to marry her. And I may say, he never regretted his decision.
So, that terrifying mystery really had a happy ending after all.
Quite.
And now, folks, before we can say goodnight, I would like to introduce you to the cast of The Hound of the Baskervilles. Maddie Seekman as Dr. Watson, Petra Costin as Sherlock Holmes, Evan Schwartz as Dr. James Mortimer and Mr. Stapleton, Caden Stromer as Sir Henry Baskerville, Aidan Haga as Mr. Barrymore, Kirsten Salisbury as Lucy, the cabbie, and Mrs. Barrymore, Kylie Huang as Hubert, Eric, the clerk, and Inspector Lestrade, Yusuf Hamza as Hugo Baskerville, the postmaster and the man, Liz Fisher as Cedric and Mr. Frankland, Eliana Hansen as Otto and Jenks, and I am Jamie Lyman, or better known to you as Mr. Bell. We would like to thank all of the students who, without their help, this production would not have been possible. Thank you to our build and sound effects team, Ivy Corey and Riley Wright, and for the fearless leader, Randy Herget. Thank you to our costumers, Jeannie Wynn, Olivia Stevens, Maddie Lenius, Emma Bache, Max Bryan, Sudipta Suresh, Natalie Dolan, Megan Thibodeau, Ariana Alvarado, and Grace Millerbrand. And many thanks to our lead designer and costumer, Jennifer Taylor James. Another special thank you to Randy Herget, our photographer and photo editor. And a special thank you to our sound team, Bryce Davis and Caden Murphy. The music and soundtrack for every episode was written and edited by these extraordinary fellows. Thank you again to Bryce Davis for the use of his recording equipment and for his incredible editing skills. We'd also like to thank our student writers for their original work and soaring imaginations. Evan Schwartz, Daniel Elwood, Eliana Hansen, Aidan Haga, and Olivia Stevens wrote the original commercials that began each episode in this series. We simply can't forget our production manager, Parker Wright, and our student assistant director, Ava Jacks. Congratulations to both on an excellent job well done. This script comes to you out of the Sherlock Holmes collections from the University of Minnesota Libraries. Our deepest gratitude to Tim Johnson, curator of the Special Collections and Rare Books, and the E.W. McDermott, curator of the Sherlock Holmes collections. We also extend our sincerest thanks to the Norwegian Explorers of Minnesota, the Red-Throated League Old-Time Radio Theater Company, and the illustrious Karen Ellery. Thank you for continuing the traditions of Holmes and historic storytelling. Our production would not have been possible without the generous equipment contributions from Avex Audiovisual. If you need to host a virtual event, call the experts at Avex Audiovisual. Of course, we'd like to thank Mr. James Swearingen and Mrs. Jane Herget for their support of this project and for fighting to get us on air. And last, but certainly not least, we would like to thank Meredith Kind, our director for this show. Her great work with the actors, writers, editors, and all the other contributors to our show cannot be overstated. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider donating to the Chaska High School Theater Department to help fund future projects. You can mail your donations to Chaska High School, care of Mrs. Jane Herget, 545 Pioneer Trail, Chaska, Minnesota, 55318. Once again, thank you for joining us here at CHS Studios in Minnesota. We wish you all health, happiness, and adventures right where you are.